Yeah, we plan to do something else for movies for this episode of the Geek Show, but with the strike in America, with SAG-AFTRA and the Writers Guild of America being such a important topic, we decided to sort of scudge that one over to the side a bit, and we'll tackle this. That other one is evergreen; it's going nowhere. But right now, I think we have to talk about this one. Hello and welcome to the Geek Show, where we talk about something that's interesting, something that's burning a hole in our pocket, and that's not uranium. I don't know why I was going with that, but or it's something fun because we have plans for this in the future. It's not just going to be us ranting for half an hour on every week's episode. So yeah, I'm Rob, and also being joined by Prob. Hello.
Hello. So yeah, I'm curious about the uranium.
Yeah, because we're burning a hole in your pocket. I thought, what burns a hole in your pocket? Nothing burns a hole in your pocket. Why would I say that?
Fire, a really hot penny. I don't know why you'd have a hot penny in your pocket, but
It just sounds like very bad innuendo.
no.
It's a dirty hot penny. Yeah. But anyway, tangents to one side. I guess we're talking about something very serious today because it's SAG-AFTRA and Writers Guild of America strikes and how they're affecting a lot of things, and not necessarily what they're mean, because we're not the right people to be talking about that. Obviously, not being American and either writers in that infrastructure or actors, but layman's terms will look at it. So yeah, the Writers Guild of America, the first one would tackle, because the Writers Guild of America are striking on the principle of pay, especially in the age of streaming. They aren't fairly recouped for what they produce, and as many actors and writers and directors and whatever have gone on to say, without a writer, there's no TV show, no movie. It doesn't exist, because you can't have a movie without a script. Not everybody can improvise awful movies like the Duplass brothers. Aha, burn. And there was an interesting piece. I know it was in regards to more complicated things, but I can't remember the name of James Gunn's brother. I think it's Sean Gunn, who plays Krogan in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
He said something along the lines of, it's ridiculous what Bob, the chief executive of Disney, has been saying, because once upon a time he used to earn 30 times more than the lowest employee, which is still a lot.
Yeah.
But now he gets 400 times what the lowest paying person at Disney gets. So it's the same story all over the place really at the moment, and especially with writers, it's the greed at the top it's next level at the moment.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just to give it a little bit of weirdly, relevant context, and it is weirdly relevant, right? A lot of the stuff in the video games industry reflects what's going on in film and television.
Yes.
Especially when it comes to executives. So you look at Western executives, the likes of Bobby Kotick and whoever it is who's in charge of Take-Two or whatever, they're getting paid an absolute fortune. I think Bobby Kotick got paid $154 million last year, and the guy
I'm sorry,
at the top of Take-Two was
$20 million. I didn't mean to undercut you with a massive jug of juice. But
it's fine.
Sorry.
It's fine. But the thing is, Nintendo released the figures for their top executives, who were only earning like $2 million a year.
And one of them is Shigeru Miyamoto, the man who basically created all of the most famous video game characters ever.
Yeah. And they're earning $2-3 million a year, which means the money's going somewhere for Nintendo, but not to the top executives. And the thing is, I find that very, very relevant in what's going on with the Writers Guild and the Screen Actors Guild.
Yeah.
Because it shows, I mean, the writers don't get paid enough as it is. We know that.
Yeah, and there's also other
And
factors here. It's beyond
yeah,
just the pay. I
yeah,
mean,
it's beyond just the pay.
AI is also relevant to the actors, which I just learned about 5 minutes ago. But
Yeah,
in the case of the writers, ChatGPT has caused all sorts of issues. In the sense of, I don't think people understand how. I mean, I know there's a lot of CEO envy. How a lot of people on social media will think of somebody. Please think of the poor CEOs. You know, like
yeah,
What was she called? Maud Flanders in The Simpsons. Will somebody please think of the CEOs? But yeah, and the CEOs don't care whether anything's good. They only care
yeah,
whether something brings in money. They don't care whether a script is good. They only care whether it's good enough. And with the rise of ChatGPT, it puts out scripts which are good enough. So as long as their profit isn't impacted, they will cut costs. And their cutting costs comes in the shape of the writers really failing it,
yeah,
their work being diminished, and it's just a really toxic environment over there in America. And there was like quotes, I can't remember who said it, but there was some chief executive said something like, "We can wait, they can't. They'll start going hungry and homeless." It's like,
yeah.
whoa,
Which is, I'm sorry, but
evil. It's not.
if yeah, it's evil.
It's
If and I know punching people in the balls isn't the thing to do, but if anyone deserves a punch in the balls,
even like the term "eat the rich" exists because people say stuff like that.
yeah. Now here's the thing, right? You and I talked about this briefly, I think last week,
Yeah,
and we were talking about the writing quality in TV adaptations of other things. So, or movie adaptations of other things. So, comic books, video games, whatever. Right? We're talking about The Witcher, talking about Rings of Power, talking about the Wheel of Time, and all sorts of other things, and how they haven't really hit the mark. Rings of Power to a much lesser degree. I think it's the die-hard Lord of the Rings fans who are
yeah. I
really
really,
said it.
really enjoyed Rings of Power.
See, Rings of Power, I thought was perfectly fine. I thought it
Yeah,
was
it's a good
great
fantasy show.
stories. It's a good fantasy show, good
Yeah.
solid fantasy. It's exactly what you want. Now, I'm not a diehard Lord of the Rings fan. I will admit that.
I'm assuming you're looping around to actually be relevant to what we're talking
Yeah,
about here.
yes, I am. See, what's happened with things like The Witcher and with various other things, and Henry Cavill hasn't been vocal about it because he's been very professional, but you can see from the way he has displayed his professionalism how unhappy he is with the level of writing. But I don't blame the writers for that, because that's an executive decision. You look at Star Wars as a franchise. You look at things like what was it, The Last Jedi and
You
Rise of
look at
Skywalker.
Hellboy, the most
Yeah.
recent Hellboy. The
Oh yeah.
studio executives wanted that to be basically Deadpool.
Yeah. And Hellboy has never been Deadpool.
Hellboy
Not in a
wishes he
million
was. No,
years.
Deadpool wishes he was Hellboy. Yeah,
Yeah.
let's word that in a way that doesn't make sense. It's like a bring it in. Yeah, Deadpool wishes he was Hellboy. No, I did
Yeah.
it wrong again, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, exactly. But again, those are overpaid executives who have no interest in anything other than making money.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been proven time and again the best way to make money is to give the fans what they want. The fact that Star Wars became such a big franchise was because the fans were being catered to. The fact that Star Trek has become such a big franchise is because the fans were being catered to.
Yeah.
All of the biggest franchises are purely there. They've reached that level because you catered to the fans. You didn't cater to other people. The fans made it big. So
Yeah,
give them what they want.
It's part of a discussion which I think is going along all sorts of lines of work in life. The people who create value are the people who actually work on it, that actually
Yeah,
write on it, who actually produce it, who actually build it. But the
exactly.
people who are making money from it are the chief executives sat at the top who just sort of spooning and spading profits into their pockets at the
Yeah,
off the sweat of the brow of their workers. I mean, it's why there's such a conversation about Randy landlords. I was going to say that's really badly worded. It's why there's such a conversation now about landlords. There's why there's conversation about all of these things. It's
yeah.
a
But I mean,
huge
you look,
issue where the top percentiles are basically fleecing everybody else for what they're worth, despite everybody else basically making these things or making
yeah.
their making their wealth possible.
Well, I mean, it's not only that. I mean, there's also a status thing going on, I believe. This is not definite. This is just my own belief, but it is grounded in things that have been reported on. Is it Kathleen Keenan who's in charge of like Disney, Marvel, Star Wars stuff? I
Don't like
can't
thinking
remember.
about that.
But anyway, whoever the lady is who's in charge has basically, she has her own agenda, she has her own things that she wants to do, and she purposefully pushes for those things to be in those stories, in those films, in those TV shows. By the same token, you have Chris Chibnall over at Doctor Who, when he was in charge of Doctor Who, who basically took the entire 50, 60 years of Doctor Who mythos of the Doctor basically being an idiot in a box traveling through time and space and getting into trouble. That's the whole idea of the Doctor. He's just a strange guy in a box. And turned him into, turned the character into something that was supposed to be special and the chosen one and stuff like that, when for 60 years, he's just been an idiot in a box. He even describes himself as, I'm just an idiot in a box.
Yes.
And this is all because the executives have gradually and by degrees taken so much power from the creative industries, from the people who are actually creating.
Yeah. A thing that I found really satisfying is, well, in past generations and past strikes and past industrial issues in Hollywood especially, there's been political issues as well thrown into that mix.
Yeah.
There's been an awful lot of taking sides, I guess. I don't know how to word it, where people betray each other.
Yeah.
Where there's a lot of backstabbing and a lot of political machinations. What I find really, really satisfying about this era and what's happening is the camaraderie across the board. You are seeing everybody sort of pull together, because there's this perception of a lot of people who don't like actors, don't like all of this, where there's assumption is that they're all millionaires and they don't really care. The famous ones to the less famous ones, it's just across the board, they're all in it together.
Yeah.
And you have interviews with people like proper A-list actors. I know it's the SAG-AFTRA thing, but like Bryan Cranston and Margot Robbie, and they're supporting the strikes.
Well, not just them. I mean, Meryl Streep's supporting the strikes.
Yeah, and for once upon a
Stiller.
time, there was a lot of, I'm not supporting that sort of thing because it's going to end my career. But what I really find satisfying is there's that sense that we're all in it together, and I think that's really nice.
Well,
It's a sign of the times. It's a sign of positivity in the times that we live in, and there's just so much to be negative about. But the fact that there's that sense of camaraderie across the board, I think is really rather beautiful.
The last time the Writers Guild of America and SAG-AFTRA both went on strike at the same time in support of each other, do you know when that happened?
No.
1960. And do you know who led the strike? Ronald Reagan.
Oh, wow. How he changed there.
Yeah, but I mean, this is the thing. Everyone forgets that Ronald Reagan was an actor, but yeah, okay, it's a line in Back to the Future. But this is the thing. I mean, it's been that long. It's been a good, 60-odd years since the last time this happened. So there are reasons to be hopeful. The fact that they're both supporting each other effectively. But the AI problem is something that I think we need to look into a bit more, because it is a lot more sinister. I mean, we've talked about how much the executives have power, and AI, ChatGPT, stuff like that. Now, you've played around with ChatGPT.
Yeah, I mean, I have, like, full disclosure, I'm making my efforts into being a filmmaker, and I have like a huge document full of scripts or concepts, and I don't know how to get that first step. So for a while, I thought, I put that into ChatGPT and I'll see what it says. And every single time, ChatGPT is obsessed with big chases in the final third.
Yeah.
It's obsessed with them. So if you're going to see a lot of movies coming up that have big chases in the Act 3, ChatGPT has had a hand in that.
Yeah.
And it
But
had one. It kept on trying to shoehorn in a character called Old Man Jenkins, and it just made everything feel like Scooby Doo.
yes.
It's
I mean, you showed me some of these. Is it treatments they're called?
yeah,
Yeah, you showed me some of these treatments, and some of them were laughably bad, but some of them were surprisingly good
because I
in terms
told
of
it about.
concepts.
I had the base concept, and I had to say yes, but do this. That's
Yeah,
rubbish. Yes, but do this. Yes, but do this. Yes, but do this. I like this, but drop that.
yeah. And
It's yeah.
I mean, that's one of the things that the Writers Guild is worried about, not just about the treatments, but about the eventual scripts that things like ChatGPT and other AI tools like that will
Just
eventually produce.
just for clarity, I'm not a scab.
Yeah,
Those concepts that came up. I mean, I can't be a scab because I don't work in the industry, but my point is, I'm not going to use those ChatGPT developed ideas. I'm basically going to completely regenerate them because it didn't really know what it was doing.
yeah.
In
But it is
essence,
a valid concern for the Writers Guild.
of course it
And
is. Yeah,
I, the fact that they've asked the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, the AMPTP, to ban the use of AI for writing and rewriting any source material, as well as its use as a source material of its own, and that no AI material be trained on WGA writers' work. The fact that they've asked for that, but the AMPTP has rejected that proposal and merely offered to hold annual meetings to discuss advancements in technology.
yeah. Also, here's another thing that I don't think people talk about enough. AI, like ChatGPT, makes shit up.
Yeah,
Like very little of it is based in truth. It just makes shit up all the time.
exactly. And I mean, we've seen news reporters being caught out by ChatGPT when they've used, when they've used certain search functions that have AI attached to it, and it's generated false positives. And then they've reported those false positives as
No,
actual
it's not
news.
just that. It makes things up. Find me a movie that does this.
Yeah,
Find me a reference point where this is true, and it'll make it up.
yeah. And like I said, some of those things have actually been reported as actual news on national TV in
Yeah,
America, especially.
I know it's about the strikes in general, but in the case of AI, I think AI is neither good nor bad. It as a tool.
Hmm.
I do think that it needs to be legislated against, and it can't just be used with like absolute carte blanche creative freedom in whatever way you want. It needs to have limitations placed
Well,
upon it,
I
and
mean,
that is part of the debate. That is part of what the Writers Guild are actually talking about,
yeah.
because it is diminishing their work. And contrary to what comments on Letterboxd and Reddit might have you believe, writing a script is a very, very hard thing to do.
Yeah.
It's a skill. It's a trade. It's a skilled work set. It's a skill set. It's whatever you want to word it as. It's
Well,
not easy. And
it's not. I mean, one of the core concepts of writing any script, and one of the core things about it is going to be in the dialogue, right? Not just in about the scenery, this setting the scene or whatever, but it's going to be the dialogue. The dialogue is everything.
well, it's not just that. I mean, scripts come from people's personal experiences, personal history,
Exactly.
people who've met, things that they've consumed into their like mind over the years, and
That's
you
what I
sort
was
of
getting at.
you
That's
spit
literally
it,
what I was going to go for.
you spit it out in this sort of confetti of ideas and sort of draw threads between it. AI doesn't have that because it's just sort of pulling things from the internet at random in
Yeah.
essence. So it can't have that same sort of reality, that same sort of truth, that same
Oh,
sort of honesty to it.
exactly. Take for example, I mean, we were working on a scene before, and I explained to you from my own personal experience how a certain conversation went,
Yes.
right? And you'd not had that experience, but the fact that I'd had that experience allowed you to put it into context.
Hmm.
Do you see what I mean? And that's a human thing that delivers a certain emotive sensibility to whatever script you're writing, whatever dialogue you're producing.
Yeah.
That's not something that AI can mimic, but it will try.
No. However, the other side of the strike, the
Yeah.
Screen Actors Guild of America, that one is it's evil.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's
Now,
it's
this is the thing.
exploitation and manipulation of people to a level which I can't think of anything to compare it to. It's I don't like using the word evil because it makes me sound like I'm like 14 years old and I'm just saying anything that I don't understand. Capitalist, whatever I don't understand is just evil. But using actors, like extras, recording their likeness and capturing their likeness and just sort of spitting that out verbatim across all the movies that the studio owns for the rest of time, despite only paying those extras once for that. Not in every reoccurrence, just once for that original sort of capture, is exploitation.
Yeah,
It's
I
absolutely exploitation. It's I don't want to use this word because it's such a loaded word, but it is sort of an interpretation of modern slavery.
yeah. Just give the viewers some sort of context. The Screen Actors Guild president, Fran Drescher, she announced the unions going on strike, and that's because at a press conference, SAG-AFTRA's chief negotiator, Duncan Crabtree Island, said that the
That's such
executives,
a good name. I'm sorry, but
yeah, the
it's
executives had proposed that our background performers, the extras, should be scanned, get paid for 1 day's pay, and their company should own that scan, their image, their likeness, and should be able to use it for the rest of eternity in any project they want with no consent and no compensation. Now, it's basically like a plot from Black Mirror right there and then. Wasn't there one that
I don't know.
recently?
I've not seen any Black Mirror. I'll be honest, but it's evil.
Yeah, it is. Now, the studio executives have turned around and said, no, that's not what we said. What we were saying is it's only in that particular project, and then any future use would have to be done by negotiation, stuff like that. Quickly trying to pull back on what they've said,
Yeah.
But this again is another example of studio executives who overpaid studio executives who have far too much power and are only focused on the dollar.
Here, there's like I know not everybody supports strikes, and honestly, if you don't support the strikes, who are you? Honestly, who are you? But in practical sense, this is going to have a very big impact on the stuff which is coming out in the next year or so. It's effectively going to feel like a retread of COVID
Yeah,
because nobody wants to break strike lines. Nobody wants to be a scab. Nobody wants to produce anything. So actors aren't going to promote events going forward. Writers aren't writing anything.
yeah,
It's just deadlock.
yeah,
So that's going to be reflected in the stuff which is getting produced in
yeah.
America, which is unavoidable. But
I
this was always going to happen because the people at the top were taking too much and the people at the bottom were getting too little. So there's people who are writers who basically have to take on second jobs to make ends meet. This is always the end game for what is going to happen with the writers' situation in America. It was always going to
yeah,
happen. It just happened now.
yeah. I
And other things sort of like piled on top of that. But that is the truth. People had to get second jobs to be writers, professional studio, not independent movies just churning stuff out. Professional studios, big studios. They had to get a second job to sustain their dream, their career.
yeah,
And
not just in film but in TV as well.
oh yeah, I mean across the board, I meant TV, film, whatever. I mean even shows like I don't know what to call them, but those late night chat shows
Yeah,
with some douchey, smarmy host. Even it affects them.
yeah, absolutely. On the actors' side, though, and this is the worst part for the actors, I feel, for the extras. The reason why you become an extra, why you take on those jobs, is so you can learn about the studio environment, so you can learn what it's like on set, so you can see other actors and their craft. And so you can learn. It's a process of learning until you basically get your role yourself.
There is that, but there are also people who just want to be extras.
Yeah, there's people who just want to be extras, but primarily you become an extra so you can learn about the studio, learn about the set, learn about how things work. It's a process of learning as you basically practice your craft and get better at it.
Yeah, a lot of
And
extras.
that,
A lot of extras will tend to sort of do local theatre,
yeah,
free short films on the side, so they learn their craft. But being an extra is their foot in the door.
exactly. And if you take that away from them, then who's going to be the next big Hollywood actor? I don't know.
I don't know, some AI
I mean,
abomination.
how often do I keep saying to you, Rob, you shouldn't waste talent. It's too hard to come by.
Yeah, you do.
You know? And this is the thing, all of this focus on AI, the fact that all of these studio executives are so focused on AI as a money-making tool.
Yeah. There's another sort of spin on this that I think is particularly pertinent that nobody else is talking about. It symbolizes a much more diverse class system in American acting.
Yeah.
The working classes are much more likely to strike because it's just the nature of the game, the way reality. Whereas the upper classes, the upper middle classes, it's not quite as comfortable for them. So the fact that this is happening in America shows that it's class-wise and economic background-wise very, very healthy.
Yeah.
I fear that if this happened in the UK, nothing would happen because it's been reported many times that in the entertainment, in the news media, in the journalism industries, it's all very upper middle class.
Oh, God, yes.
Actors who you think who are in roles that you might think are working class sorts, like Tom Hardy, you think, oh, he's clearly working class. No, upper middle class. Across the board, pretty much all English actors that you will know about come from wealthy backgrounds.
I think Ray Winston was the last one that I could name who was working class.
Yeah, there's very few and far between.
Exactly.
But I think that really, it's satisfying for the Hollywood industry, and it's satisfying for its future and its future health. That I think it's all of these perspectives are coming together and agreeing that the way the industry works is bad and wrong. So I think, despite Hollywood not really being a thing anymore, it's not like once upon a time all of American industry power was in Hollywood and nothing went anywhere else.
Yeah.
I think that those days are done, but the sort of the collective of actors and writers, I think America is in a very, very healthy place, much more so than its critics would have you believe. Whereas England is in a horrible position, but that's me kind of sort of seeding something for a future episode.
Yeah.
I'm being sneaky.
And I'm also going to seed for a future episode because we are going to talk about AI properly as a thing on its own.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because I want to take you back to the 90s for a second, right? And there was a concept that appeared in an anime series, just a little 4-part OVA, and the concept was of the virtual idol. There's a character in Macross Plus called Sharon Apple, who was a galaxy-wide famous virtual idol, supposedly completely artificial, but powered by a human brain, but with a military-grade AI running it, or eventually military-grade. There's all sorts of stuff happening in there. Nowadays, you have virtual idols already in the form of Hatsune Miku and the rest of the Vocaloid mascot characters. And they have like TV shows, they do concerts, on various other things, holographic concerts.
There was a video game company was also producing entirely AI led music as well, wasn't it? I can't remember which one it was.
Entirely AI led. I can't remember. I know that Riot is still working with session musicians and people like that. So it's not Riot because they're very, very big. But they did do like a virtual idol group called KDA, which is actual proper singers, but the characters they created were the virtual idols.
Yeah, I think that might be what I'm confusing it for, because I remember being outraged at how corporate it all was.
Yeah, it is very corporate, but then again, it's K-pop, so K-pop is kind of corporate as well.
It's super
Uh,
corporate.
but here's the thing, right? And this is a bit of doomsaying. How long would it be with AI developing in the way it is? And you can get AI, you can get artificially intelligent animations just by plugging in what you want into those sorts of things. You can get. I mean, there was a short film I saw on BBC's Click where somebody had just done a short film and it was animated in AI.
Yeah, that's the problem that a lot of people had with the intro to what was it called? The new MCU TV show.
I can't remember.
The one with Nick Samuel Jackson.
Secret Invasion.
Yeah, well, that intro sort of animation is all AI as well, and that's a huge studio that's doing it. And
Yeah.
they said the nature of the show means that's the only way we could have done the intro.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
Now, you imagine it like this, right? And they've already played around with regenerating the image and the likeness of various actors who've passed on, right?
Star Wars, to reiterate that, I mean, they did that quite a lot.
I mean, in terms of music, they were talking about Michael Jackson concert with a virtual Michael Jackson.
Yes, there were. Wasn't just that either. There's been a number of them. I can't remember who else it was, but no, it's not coming to me. But it's AI concert. I think it's ABBA. Actually, yeah, ABBA.
Yeah, there was the ABBA one as well. So how long is it going to be until we have a movie or a TV show where your lead actors or certain actors in the TV show or the movie are going to be completely fictional, as in they don't exist at all? They are AI generated, AI driven.
Yeah, and that's where the cracks in the industry start to grow.
Yeah.
I think in the movie, in the video game industry, rather, there's a very, very prominent divide in the industry between indies. Indies have never been more profitable or accessible, and the AAA.
Yeah.
The AAA is out of touch with what people want, whereas indies just make stuff that they like and what people like. It's sort of like relevant to the time.
Yeah.
And I do think the movie industry is heading that way because the blockbuster, the studio environment, it's what it's producing is getting narrower and narrower, and the spaces that's being left by what they're used to produce is being picked up by other countries, is being picked up by indie productions.
Yep.
And world cinema and indie film has never been healthier than it is now because of Hollywood. What's Hollywood? Because of Hollywood.
Halitosis wood. It's halitosis wood.
Because
all
of
the
Hollywood.
Breadsticks.
Hollywood narrowing itself in and being so insular and being so corporate and so greedy that their greed is opening other doors for other people.
Yeah.
And it's not, it'd be very doomsayer about this, but I think when the industry, capitalist, super rich side of the industry sort of boxes itself in and it talks itself into a corner and it doesn't know how to get out of there. So it struggles. It happens all the time. Not all the time. It happens, but
well, weirdly enough, right?
Which means that studios and big budget stuff has to reinvent itself. Has to climb down from its, its whatever you want to call it.
Weirdly enough, right? And I'm going to end this with trash fiction, right? And this is going to be, it's bizarre how relevant it is to the times we live in now, but it is, and I never thought it would be. So there's a story I read. It's I believe Chinese, and it was translated into English, and it's called Superstars of Tomorrow, right? And it's set on a human world like Earth, but the main character has somehow been reborn 500 years after his death. Now, he was basically a soldier at the end times. The world had basically been hit by massive meteors, mutant animals all over the place. Humanity was basically on its last legs, and he was one of the people who led the remnants of humanity before his death. But now he's been reborn 500 years in the future as a composer. And originally, in his previous life, he was a composer. And he's seeing the entertainment industry the way it is 500 years in the future when humanity's been reborn. And you have virtual idols who are also actors who are outpacing, at first, all of the mainstream, normal people who are becoming actors and singers. They're always topping the charts in, music and in films and stuff like that, these virtual idols. But because of his influence, things start taking a turn. The studio he works with go to a different planet, build a massive film complex, and then they have this massive film complex which doesn't have virtual idols. All of the actors, have this idea that if it's not filmed there, then it's not worth watching. All of the normal people have this idea. So you start seeing the recurrence, the resurgence of normal actors. And that feels like what's happening now in terms of, Hollywood and the rest of the world, as you
What
put it.
Hollywood wants, I should say.
Yeah, what Hollywood wants, but what's actually happening is others are coming in to fill in the cracks, and people are going more to those.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it the video game industry? It's the world wants a new Metal Gear Solid, but the
Yeah,
industry says, "Nah, I'm all right, mate." So indie people say, "Okay, you're not doing a Metal Gear Solid. I'll do a Metal Gear Solid. Screw you." And
oh, that happened recently with I
there's
think it was
loads of examples. So
yeah, there's
many
loads of
examples.
examples. What was it? Desperados, something like that. I can't remember the title of it, but
It happens time and time and time and time and time again.
yeah,
If the studios don't see money in it, they got their heads so far up their ass that all they can see is green.
yeah,
People, it'll find a way. Life finds a
yeah.
way.
Oh, obviously, yeah,
And I think
absolutely,
that the entirety of the creative arts that are striking in America right now, that are on the same sheet, I think it spells for great things in the future. If
yeah,
it was fractious and divided, and there was backstabbing and there was betrayals, and it was all ugly and muckslinging, I'd say, yeah, America's doomed as an industry for film and TV. But it's not. They're all sticking together, and I think that's, like I said earlier, I think that's rather beautiful, and it's a good sign for the future.
yeah. And I'm hopeful from my side that what's happening in America will also be a signal to the video games industry, to the people who work in the video games industry, as to the power of unionization, as to
Yeah.
what benefits unions can bring to their own industry. The fact that they're able to hold these executives to account because they're all part of a union, a
Yeah, the
greater
whole point
union.
of it, the core idea of a union is you remove your labour to prove how valuable said labour is,
Hmm.
and the video game industry doesn't have that.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not like the video games industry isn't facing the same sort of pressures of AI as the movie and film in the movie and TV
It's
industries.
different, but it's the same but in different arenas.
Yeah, I mean, on the writing side, they're facing similar pressures, but on the other side, the coding side, they're facing greater pressures.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
that's a thing that, should be looked at. And I think the video games industry needs to follow the Writers Guild of America and SAG-AFTRA and basically en masse come together. All of the people from various companies and developers and publishers come together and say, we want a video games union that's like this. Not independent individual unions, but one for the video games industry itself. And I hope that's something that can be looked at.
I hope so too. I do. And that's it for this week's episode of the Geek Show. Stuff which is happening. I guess I can announce this now. But if you head over to our Patreon at Patreon/ The Geek Show, one of the things that we've got coming up is a new series of articles to go with our long-running series of Doctor Who and our new started series of X-Files. The once and former classic film kid, who goes by his real name now, is starting a Red Dwarf series. So he's a big fan of that. So
Cool.
check out that and subscribe to that for more details. And that, as well as over on Patreon, we've also got a series of mini podcasts that I do about horror franchises that don't really get the rub and don't really get the attention. So we're not going to do Evil Dead and Paranormal Activity and Insidious and The Conjuring. We're going to do Puppet Master and Is it Whispering Corridors? That one that went on for about 20 movies in Korea? I can't remember. But we're doing stuff like that, interesting stuff. Also, Cholo just follows on social media, TGS_ the Geek Show across all of the platforms. So that is it. And we have a few more in the bank, so there's some interesting stuff coming up for the Geek Show. But until then, please do subscribe and comment below with your thoughts. And if you're anti-strikes, keep Vince.
Yeah, what he said.